All right, to discuss today's effort to cap the gusher and the latest predictions on the vast environmental impact, let's turn now to marine conservationist Rick Steiner. Rick, good evening again. Thanks for your time tonight.
Hi, Keith.
My understanding is you have requested to serve as an independent technical observer of this cut and cap project. Does that mean they don't have an independent technical observer of the cut and cap project?
That's my understanding, and my understanding is that the only people in the room out there in the ROV operating room for this project are BP and their contractors and the federal agencies. And honestly, we can't believe a thing that BP says, and a lot of people are starting to question what they're hearing out of the administration simply because both have their own vested interests here. So if there's nothing to hide, I've asked Admiral Allen and the EPA administrator to put me in the room.
This, the cap or the top hat, what is the best result we can hope for? When will we have any idea if this has done anything positively?
Well, I think sometime tonight or tomorrow morning we're going to hear how it's working if they actually get it fitted. The best outcome, obviously, is that 100% of the blowout oil is contained by this thing and siphoned up to the surface. The worst outcome is not just that it doesn't work. The worst outcome would be that it back pressures down into the blowout preventer, and the resistance that's in there already is lost, and thus the increase in flow of the blowout could actually double.
To what's happening on the shore, it's obviously killing wildlife. Despite the best efforts by BP to cover this up, we're seeing the pictures now. Does anybody have an idea of the current extent of that, or has this extraordinary combination of BP thugs and actually police and other authorities, has this essentially made it impossible to judge how bad the flora and fauna situation is?
Yeah, it's bad. There's a lot of oil. It's starting to come to shore. Of course, a lot of the impact is still offshore and in the water, so it's a little out of sight, out of mind to people. But the oil that's starting to come to shore is extensive. And yeah, we were run off beaches and away from oiled inshore areas weeks ago by BP thugs and saying that they're operating on the orders of the Coast Guard or BP, and obviously they don't want the images on the evening news. So, but the wildlife impacts have been extensive. The number of dead carcasses that have been collected is just a minute fraction, perhaps 10 to 20% of the number of dead animals, which generally almost always drift down into the water column and sink.
About drifting, the National Center for Atmospheric Research released a simulation of what it thinks could happen if the so-called loop current, the thing in the Gulf of Mexico, picks up the oil, that it could reach the Atlantic coastline of Florida, the other side of Florida within weeks. It could spread up as far as Cape Hatteras in North Carolina and then moves out in the open ocean. It's not a solid prediction according to the NCAR, but it's a possible scenario. Is it a probable scenario in your opinion?
Oh yeah, I think it's probable, particularly if this containment cap doesn't work and the blowout, which we know the blowout will keep going for the next couple of months until the relief wells get down there and kill this thing. So if the cap doesn't work, we're going to have 3 times the amount of oil in the Gulf of Mexico. But I think some of the oil has already entered the loop current. We've heard evidence of that. It will go around the southern tip of Florida. And, you know, ironically, some of these tar balls will go towards the UK and the North Atlantic Drift. And so some of the oil from BP will be returned to British Petroleum in the UK.
A wonderful added touch of irony from Rick Steiner, conservation consultant, marine biologist. Once again, thanks for the explanations and thanks for your time.
My pleasure, Keith.